Welcome. My name is Liz Beasley. I work for the Division of Continuing Studies at Rutgers University, and I'm here to welcome you to this third in a series of 3 free webinars on gifted education topics. This third one is on the topic of collaborating and consulting to promote gifted education. Your speaker for today will be Dr. Lenore Cortina, who is the faculty coordinator for our graduate certificate program in gifted education. Consider yourselves welcome. Glad to have you here. Delighted to have you with us. I'll be introducing Dr. Lenore Cortina, our faculty coordinator for the Gifted Education program here at Rutgers University, in just a minute. After she's spoken with you, I hope you'll stay on. I want to talk with you a little bit more about upcoming gifted education programs through this fall and into the spring. And then we'll have time for questions and comments. Hopefully have a little bit of a conversation about some of the concepts that come up today.
Good afternoon and welcome to the webinar, Collaborating and Consulting to Promote Gifted Education. I'm Lenore Cortina, the faculty coordinator of the Rutgers Gifted Education Certificate Program. And I wanted to do this webinar because I do think it's an important piece of what we do as gifted educators, working with not just regular classroom teachers, but special area teachers and administrators so that we can promote gifted education throughout the entire district. So how do you view your role? Do you see yourself as a traditional gifted teacher where you're responsible for a select group of identified students? Do you see yourself as a resource for other personnel in the building? Are you a coordinator where you're managing schedules and working with a group of teachers to deliver services? Are gifted students, whether you're in any of these roles, are gifted students just a piece of what you do? Do you have shared responsibility? And if you're like most other gifted educators, you probably see yourself in many of these roles. When we go into the role of a gifted educator, we're asked to put on many, many hats. So what are the biggest obstacles to your being able to do this well? Well, because you have so many roles, some of that is time. Where do I spend my time? How do I make the most efficient use of my time so that I can take on all those roles? And that's what today's webinar is all about. The other obstacle we have are resources. Do I have appropriate curricular materials? Do I have the technology that I need to be able to educate these students to the best of their ability? Do I have funding for projects, for trips, for the personnel that I need actually to implement the program? Do I have support from administrators, parents, and other teachers? A lot of this webinar will be about building support from other teachers and administrators, which is important. And then lastly, the expertise. Not having enough expertise can be a real obstacle to being able to deliver appropriate education for gifted students. So here's Thomas Edison, and he reportedly had a really interesting way to interview candidates. He invited them to join him for lunch, and when the soup came, if they salted it before tasting it, the interview was over. And that was because he felt he couldn't afford to have people working for him that relied on assumptions to make decisions. You know, you assume that it needs salt, you pour salt on it before you even taste it. So no matter how small those assumptions were, he felt he couldn't afford to have people do that. And I bring that up because I think we make a lot of assumptions when we think about working with regular classroom teachers. I think administrators make a lot of assumptions about that as well. So I think it's important that we discuss these assumptions within this webinar. So the first one is any time spent in gifted classes is better than no time. Well, we know that's not to be true. Gifted classes have to be valuable, they have to be meaningful, they have to have experiences in order for that to be valuable for them. Sometimes we say, oh, at least they have one day a week with me, 1 hour. Their classroom. time in their classroom, those hour or two a week, I mean, they are certainly helpful. Um, but we do as educators, we have a responsibility to be sure that they also, they're also being regular class. Parents would be satisfied as long as their child is identified. We do something for them. And in some cases, this is true, but I've heard it used
Very low.
and
So let me
parents we just want the label and that's it. I think that we're selling parents short when we do that, because I think that they truly want the best educational plan for their child. And I don't think we can use this as a crutch to say, um, that we shouldn't look at what's going on in the regular classroom, that they're just happy that their child is being pulled out. Students can only be identified after primary grades because they are sometimes just early readers or writers. Those of us who work in the primary, have worked in the primary grades, know this not to be true. We know that sometimes we have kindergarten students that are reading. Generally, yes, they might just be early readers, but if they're early readers, it shows that they have an advanced ability to be able to pick up that skill before formal education in that area. So there is something there. So identifying students, anybody who knows me, and if you've had any of these webinars, you know that identifying students, the earlier we can identify them and service them, the better. So teachers have enough on their plate. They don't have the time or the will to meet with me about gifted students. I have said this to myself. I'm a person who does not typically ask people for help. And I think a lot of gifted educators are like me in that they feel I have a job to do. I'm going to do everything I can. If I go to the classroom teacher and ask them, tell them, suggest to them that they have a responsibility to meet the needs of these gifted students, that I'm asking for more than is reasonable. You're not asking for more than is reasonable. Every teacher has a responsibility no matter how much is on their plate. And I understand that right now it's a difficult time to be a teacher. There are so many responsibilities, but your responsibility first and foremost is to meet the needs of all the students in your class. Can we put structures in place to help teachers meet their needs? Absolutely. But a teacher's responsibility is to meet the needs of all the students in their class. So when we say to ourselves, oh, I can't ask them to do that, we're not being advocates for our gifted students. And I think it's very, very important that we keep in mind that we are the advocates for those students, that we are the gifted educator is typically the person in the building who is asking and advocating for those students. And we have to remember that this is not a privilege. Gifted education is not a privilege. It is a right. This is an equity issue. And we have to remember that we can't have this kind of talk in our heads that, oh, they already do too much. I can't ask them to do this. What you want to do is to support them in meeting these students' needs. The job description states that I must. So you look at your job description, the job description says, well, your responsibility is to pull out students and do this. And yes, we have to look at our job description and we have to do what our job description suggests we have to do. But times change, things have changed. And if your job description doesn't allow you to work with teachers, doesn't support your work with classroom teachers, then you need to work to change that as well. So how do you use your time, resources, and expertise most efficiently to get the most benefit for gifted students? And that is pretty much what this webinar is about. So this is an old ad for Pepsi, more bounce to the ounce. It was the springboard to the expression more bang for your buck, whatever. But how do you use your time most effectively and most efficiently to get the most benefit for your students? So that's what we're going to talk about. So in a traditional GT pull-out program, these are the responsibilities. The gifted teacher provides direct instruction. They have their own goals. Students have the products the students are asked to do products in that classroom, and the gifted teacher has her own assessments. And then the general education teacher provides direct instruction in her classroom. She or he has their own goals. They have their own products and their own assessments. This type of when we separate this and say, okay, the gifted teacher is responsible in her classroom for 1 day a week, a couple of hours a week, and the general education teacher is responsible for the rest of the time, it can foster a lack of understanding of what goes on in our programs. It can foster this whole idea of elitism. And we can be left feeling like we're just not doing enough for them, which is how I typically felt before I started consulting and collaborating with regular education teachers. You just feel this is not enough for them. So we put ourselves in these two separate boxes, and when we could be working together. So there are benefits to pull-out programs. I'm a big fan of pull-out programs, so I don't want you to think that I'm not a fan of it. One of the benefits is that you have academic peers. The next benefit is that you have appropriately challenging curriculum that they engage with their peers, which we all know is very important. The pacing, we can have pacing that is appropriate. High level of discourse. This can be pull-out programs, being with their peers, coming out and working on very engaging curriculum is extremely motivating for gifted students. And this is a safe haven for many gifted students, for sure. This place where they can go and they can say anything without the fear of looking different from their grade level peers. So I'm a fan of pull-out program. I'm not asking you to not do a pull-out program if that's what you have. I'm just looking for how can you use your time, again, for the most benefit for gifted students, not replacing the pull-out program, just changing your time structure a little bit. So if we look at gifted education, a lot of times what happens is they have a gifted educator, either one in the district or one in each building, and they say, okay, the gifted teacher is responsible, but we actually have a shared responsibility for that. The gifted teacher, the gen ed teacher, special area teachers, administrators, we all have a responsibility to be sure that we're educating these students to their potential, because they don't spend 100% of their time with the gifted teacher in most districts. So we have to look at what are the strengths of each of these people. What are the strengths of the GT teacher? Well, the GT teacher has an understanding of gifted students, an understanding of gifted curriculum, an understanding of the social and emotional effects of not having challenging curriculum. The general education teacher has the expertise with the grade level curriculum. The special area teachers have expertise with some of those areas where our gifted students excel. And administrators understand the big picture. So everybody has strengths and everybody has needs. So we all have different needs, and we have to support one another in meeting those needs. For example, administrators, they only have a certain amount of money, time. They have to prioritize for a whole range of students, not just gifted students. So we have to look at their needs when we ask for their help in meeting the needs of gifted students. The GT teacher only has a certain amount of time and typically has a lot on her plate. So we have to look at the needs of the GT teacher. We have to look at the needs of the general ed teachers. Like I said, they have a lot on their plate, but we have to look at what do they actually need from us to be able to meet those needs of students in general ed classrooms a little bit better. So the question is, how do I support teachers to meet the needs of identified gifted students when they are in the regular classroom? And one of my favorite resources is this book by Mary Landrum, Consultation in Gifted Education. A lot of the ideas and even some of the graphics that I'm going to talk about come from this book, Consultation in Gifted Education, Teachers Working Together to Serve Students. Very, very important that we're doing that and that we understand that it is a shared responsibility. So consultation and collaboration, we're going to redefine the role of the gifted teacher rather than replace the role. So traditionally now, gifted teachers are doing direct services only. So you have this select group of gifted students. We don't want to take that role away. I'm still a fan that there should be time in the day for those students to work together exclusively with gifted teachers. It doesn't mean it has to be that way. That is just my personal belief that I do see great value in there being time for those students to work with one another, with a gifted educator at times. So then we can move from direct services only. And here we have direct, and we have a classroom teacher, the one with the board there. She's servicing a whole classroom in which our gifted students are placed. So if we think about, okay, we only have direct services to our students, and yet when we provide direct and indirect services, okay, so now I'm talking about not just direct services, meaning I'm just working with students, just delivering curriculum to students. Indirect services mean I'm working with teachers. I'm working with whole groups of students, perhaps, so that I can meet the needs of my gifted students. I'm working with their teachers to help the teachers differentiate more effectively for my gifted students in the classroom. So not only am I affecting those 8 students that I have in my classroom, my goal will always be, whether I work directly or indirectly with those students, to be sure that these representative 8 students here needs are being met. But I also am influencing the rest of the class. So I'm influencing the education of more students by providing indirect services to teachers. Again, we're redefining the role of gifted teacher rather than replacing it. So when I do consultation and collaboration, what Mary Landrum found in her studies in way back in 1998, she found that when they went to this, there was a lot of benefits in this type of model. Gifted teachers learn more about the grade level curriculum, which is really important when you think about it. When we're designing curriculum for our programs, if we do have pull-out programs, however we can connect them to the grade level curriculum, that is more learning for our students. That is deeper, better learning for our students. The more we can connect it, the better. The other benefits are general education and special area teachers learned about gifted education in a job-embedded way. Again, I think we've established that there's very few opportunities for professional learning and gifted education for most general education teachers. And I would say it's probably even more limited for special area teachers. But when we work with them, when we consult and collaborate with gen ed and special area teachers, we are providing job-embedded professional development and gifted education. Gifted and typical students benefited from differentiated lessons. So again, we are reaching more students. It wasn't just the gifted students, although that should always be our focus when we're making any kind of changes to curriculum. As gifted educators, if that's our role, that's our focus. But typical students also benefited from the differentiated lesson. Efficient use of time, pull-out classes scheduled when they were most needed, rather than we meet every Tuesday. In the Landrum model, what she does is she pulls out the classes when they are most needed, at times when the classroom teacher and the gifted teacher both feel it would be beneficial. So for example, if you're doing a unit and you're differentiating the curriculum, well, you can co-teach, or the classroom teacher could even teach this initial piece, the introductory pieces, but then there may be pull-out classes needed when we're going into the more advanced work within the unit. More sophisticated content can be integrated into differentiated lessons in the gen ed classroom because the teacher has the support of the gifted teacher. And she also has those, you are going to help her to put those structures in place within the curriculum, within the learning activities, so that they're able to add more sophisticated content. And then there's continuity between the grade level curriculum and the GT content, which I talked about a little bit before. Very, very important. When gifted teachers understand what the grade level concepts are, they can extend those and have more advanced, which leads to better learning for gifted students. And then also what she found is that the frequency of differentiated lessons increased. So more differentiated lessons can only benefit all of the students in the class. And then there was shared accountability and acceptance. Again, we talk about shared responsibility. We need to share the accountability for these students in the regular education classroom. And then also acceptance of these students. I think there have been studies to show that general education teachers have difficulty sometimes understanding what the students' needs are, so they have difficulty differentiating, and it makes their job so much harder. So that can create some negative attitudes towards gifted students. We want these students to be accepted. We want to help teachers to be able to meet their needs so that it's a positive experience for them. So what are the benefits for students? Landrum found that pacing. She was able to keep the pacing because she worked with teachers. I think that is, and I've said this before, that I think that is the most difficult thing for both teachers and students, is that this idea that we already understand it before we get there, or we learn it very quickly, students learn it very quickly. How do we meet their needs? They don't need the repetition that other students need. So this model can really help with that. Gifted learners work with students of similar ability on differentiated activities. So again, that working with academic peers built right into this model. Pre-assessments lead to more responsive differentiation in the classroom. Again, you know what a fan I am of pre-assessments, and really working with teachers to pre-assess students so we understand where they are and we can be more responsive in our plans for differentiation. Landrum also found that students have more time in the class to engage with higher level content and instruction. So here we are, rather than our gifted students sitting there and listening to a review, they have more time in class to engage with higher level content, and this is what we want for them. Students' advanced abilities are addressed more frequently in the classroom rather than just in the gifted education resource room. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for, again, more bang for our buck for our students. So there is increased student learning. So there's some basics when you do this type of model. Has to be voluntary on the part of teachers. I find when you, especially in the climate, the educational climate right now, when you start to say you must do this, you must now work with me to do this, it becomes very difficult to create buy-in for this. So if you can find teachers who will volunteer to collaborate with you, I think what you'll find is that others will come on board pretty quickly. So colleagues rather than a supervisory relationship. And what we want to do is we want to play on the strengths and the expertise of each person within this relationship. So you're not coming in as a supervisor. You're not coming in saying you're doing this wrong. Not that any of you would do this, but you don't want to give that impression that you're saying, I'm coming in as their teacher. No, you're coming in as colleagues and you're going to learn from them. I promise you. You're going to learn from regular education teachers as much as you teach them. So you're going to play on everybody's strength and everybody's expertise. We want professional growth attitudes. Everybody needs to come into this understanding that you can grow, including you. Communication, confidential and authentic. This has to be communication that is confidential between the participants, and it has to be very authentic. Each participant, you, the gen ed teacher, maybe the special area teacher, provides direct, without collaboration, and indirect services. So everything that the general education teacher does not have to be in collaboration with you, but they will also provide some indirect service. Another thing is the focus of collaboration should remain on the target students. I've said this before, although this collaboration may have other benefits for other students, such as increased engagement, achievement. The focus for you and for this collaboration and for your work together, because this is what your responsibility is, should remain on meeting the needs of gifted learners. I say that because I don't want anybody to lose sight of that. Your work to benefit gifted learners the most should focus on that. Collaboration and consultation should enhance other students for gifted students and not replace or eliminate services. That's why there are many benefits to a pull-out program. So you don't want I don't want to give anybody the impression that I'm saying you only work with teachers to differentiate in the classroom. No, I'm saying there's a place for both of these things in there. Should include a wide variety of participants from other educators, parents, community members to take advantage of everybody's expertise. Again, it simply just redefines the role. The last thing is flexibility. It can take place in the classroom, in the resource room, on a field trip, in the computer lab. Think outside the box about where these services should take place. So what are your goals be? Simple. Improve students' educational experiences, build teacher capacity to effectively meet the needs of gifted students in the regular classroom, and optimize your time to benefit your students. So this is the resource consultation model from the Landrum book. And if you look at the bottom, level 1, classroom teachers develop learning experiences in the regular classroom. So this is really where classroom teachers are working with themselves, either with their teams, and they're developing curriculum. Level 2, resource consultation, is classroom teachers and gifted education specialists work together to develop learning experiences. This is where most of you will be. And level 3 is larger teams of educators work together to develop learning experience. This is bigger picture stuff. This is student identification and placement. This is individual educational planning. This is curriculum writing. This is INDRS work. This is more higher level of larger teams. So basically, you're going to be working in this level 2 with students. So what does that look like? Okay, at level 1, collaboration among general education. This may be team teaching, intra-class grouping of students. Say you have a first grade student in each classroom who's a high reader. We may say, okay, I'm going to take them all. And this is just a regular education teachers. I'm going to have a high reading group for the next 2 weeks. I'll take all of the really high readers into my classroom. The next couple of weeks, somebody else on the team takes them. So this is all within the team, within the grade level planning for differentiation and sharing classroom materials and other resources. So then you look at level 2, and so this is collaboration among general education educators and the gifted specialists with shared responsibility for gifted learners. So what you might do is you may integrate the regular curriculum and specialized instruction for the gifted learners. So you sit down with the regular education teacher and you say, okay, what units are you doing this year? And then you think about how you can provide advanced learning opportunities. You can do collaborative teaching. You can come in and do a lesson on creativity that extends everything for the entire classroom. You can teach within the classroom. You can help teachers. We've talked about compacting and choice menus. You collaborate together, okay? You consult for differentiation, and you collaborate together to provide those opportunities for students. Materials, location, selection, and or development, finding materials together, demo teaching by the gifted specialists. Sometimes general education teachers really don't understand how to facilitate in a classroom where everybody's doing something different. Sometimes that's very, very difficult for them, and you may have to do a demo lesson, and that's great. Everybody benefits from that. Shared student assessment. So making sure that our students are pre-assessed and they're post-assessed appropriately, that there is no ceiling to either on that pre-assessment, so that we really understand what the students understand, that we are planning our differentiation activities, that when we're consulting, based on student assessment. Joint parent-teacher conferences. You may want to do this if you've been working in a classroom well, you are going to want to be there as well, not only to support the teacher, but to show parents that we work together in this type of thing. And curriculum planning is really important at this level. And then level 3, collaboration among teams or small groups. These could be counselors, administrators, subject area teachers, and gifted specialists working on an identification and placement system, individualized education planning, INRS teams, at-risk student planning, which would go under INRS teams, and curriculum writing. I always ask administrators to please put a gifted teacher on a curriculum writing team. And they should also put a special education teacher on every curriculum writing team so that we're building in. So your work is done within the curriculum, not done, but it's there's a basis for your work in the curriculum, because as we know, we need rich curriculum if we're going to differentiate well. So co-planning, G&T and general education teacher or at grade level meetings, they meet together consistently about 30 minutes a week. Co-teaching means that we teach plan lessons together or alternately, can occur in different places. Follow-up, we're going to collaborate in planning and implementing assessment, give grades cooperatively, and then we're going to talk to one another. We're going to self-reflect and we're going to critique about what we've done. So these are some sample roles in the whole consultation model, not just within the levels of the Landrum model. So the classroom teacher can identify performance standards and skills, identify the curriculum goals of the unit, conduct student pre-testing, organize the differentiated lessons, what can I do on what day. The gifted education specialist to support that can develop some differentiated curriculum. Okay, I'm going to look at the curriculum and I'm going to say, okay, this is what we might do. We can change it. We can differentiate this graphic organizer. We can differentiate this activity to make it more engaging and more appropriate for the gifted students. Gifted ed specialists can plan lesson demos and lesson study with the general ed teachers. Organize resource materials. As much as you can do to help the gen ed teacher do this, the better off you are. Develop work schedules and manage the overall class experience with the classroom teacher. Share roles, curriculum compacting. You can develop a pretest together. You can co-teach. You can co-plan. You can develop student contracts and menus together. Establish criteria for assessment. Really important that there's input from the gifted specialist to what is the criteria, because many times, as you know, gen ed teachers do not really know what the abilities of these students are, and determine student grouping. You can do that together. So, and this is just an example of how you might schedule this. You're thinking, oh, I can't find any time in my schedule to do this. But you may think about doing direct services for part of your time and indirect services for a good chunk of your time. And this is how that might look. So this is what a possible schedule might look like in K-8. And if you see up at the top on white where I have grade 1, grade 2, grade 5, grade 4, grade 7, this is if you're in a K-8 school. I happen to be in a K-8 school. So grade 1, those are the periods that I would work with those teachers. Now, I may not work with the teacher the entire school year. I may work with one teacher for one unit, one teacher for another unit, and a third first grade teacher for another unit. So all year I'm working with grade 1, but I may be working with one teacher. If I'm working with the whole team, for period 1, I may spend it with one teacher, period 2. However it works for you, you may do that. But as you see in blue, those are my scheduled period with students, okay? Because this was a K-8 and I had so many students to see, I multi-age grouped these students. So K1, 2, 3, but everybody got 2 periods a week to work in my classroom. And typically, okay, more time because I was working in the classroom as well. So they actually had more time with me than they would have otherwise. And you can see lunch is built in and prep is built in. This is what it might look like in K-5. You might have a little more time. Here I would have 2 periods, grade 1 direct, grade 2 direct, grade 3 direct instruction. And then, you know, my whole Wednesday could be about grade 3 in the classroom. So you can see I've also built in school-wide enrichment, curriculum writing. I've put that in, and you still have a prep and a lunch. Now, hopefully what happens is during this, you can see in these white periods, one of those is the teacher's prep, so that you're also working with the teacher 1 day a week to be able to do this, because I think it's important that you have common planning time, that you're able to do that. So how do you make it work? Cluster grouping can make this a more efficient model. It allows the GT teachers to work with fewer teachers. Develop differentiated curricular materials that can be used in another classroom and perhaps another grade level, maybe a critical thinking sequence that goes from K to 5. Make it easier for lesson implementation. Materials should be gathered by the GT teacher beforehand. Clear and consistent criteria for participation in differentiated activities. Really important that we pre-assess. Clear and consistent criteria for participation. Multi and interdisciplinary units. Develop culminating projects that all students complete at their level. It builds community and support. So GT students' work might be more sophisticated or complex, but the culminating projects are all students are working on a culminating project. Remain flexible with scheduling, grouping, and facilities. You can't do this without administrative support, and for those administrators that are listening, you need resources, appropriate curriculum and materials. Again, you have to start with good curriculum to begin with to be able to differentiate well. So having a GT teacher on the curriculum is important. Support collaboration by facilitating scheduled common planning time is essential, so that one of those periods that was in that schedule is a prep time for that grade level team. It really helps. Encourage teams of curriculum writers that include gifted education personnel. Seek out professional learning and support professional learning for all faculty and staff related to gifted education. Celebrate the products of, recognize, acknowledge, and celebrate the products of these collaborative efforts of these brave teachers who are working together. And then include differentiation and observation protocols. I ask this of administrators because, what gets measured matters. And when you are looking for differentiation in the classroom, in the observation, and it's part of the protocol, then teachers will have an incentive to put it in there. And lastly, this addresses the professional standards that the National Association for Gifted Children in the area of curriculum planning and instruction, in the area of learning environments, and the area of programming. So thank you very much. If you have any questions for me, please email me. You can reach me through Rutgers, and it has been a pleasure, and I hope this has been helpful, and thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Dr. Cortina. This is Liz Beasley again. Just want to take a couple of minutes to talk with you about some upcoming programs, some of which you may be interested in, or you may have colleagues for whom they may be appropriate. And then we'll go to questions and comments. We've been offering at Rutgers the Gifted Education Certificate Program since 2010, and we're delighted with it and can highly recommend it to you. However, we find as we move along here that other kinds of programs and other kinds of services are important to also provide in order to really support both parents and teachers and also administrators. So we have several other things that we want to let you know are coming up. One is our annual conference, a special topics course this coming summer, a custom professional development and consulting opportunity for schools or school districts, and then again the remaining free webinars for this fall. The Gifted Education Certificate Program at Rutgers University is a 15-credit graduate level professional development series, not a state endorsement or state certification because there isn't one of those in New Jersey. It is a chance to learn more about the field, how to interact with gifted students, and how to help them and support them in their learning. It's offered in fully online format. both to make it more convenient for students across New Jersey and around the world, and also to be able to attract the very best faculty to our program. We bring in experts who are experienced classroom teachers and educators and consultants in gifted education from all across the country to teach in this program. Courses that you take in this program may also be applied towards graduate degrees in either childhood studies through the Rutgers Camden campus, or through different graduate programs through the Graduate School of Education in New Brunswick. In addition, the Curriculum and Instruction course, the third course in the series, may also be applied towards the Supervisor Certificate offered at Rutgers. The curriculum for our certificate program was designed by Dr. Joyce Van Tassel-Baska, one of the top leaders in the field, with 31 books, more than 500 articles and chapters and professional presentations to her credit. She used in designing this program the NAGC CEC teacher preparation standards in gifted and talented education, and also the advanced standards in gifted education teacher preparation. You can see those standards. You'll see there's a website printed in bright blue on your page, and that's a place you can go to see those in full. On our website, too, when you see the course descriptions, you will notice which of those standards are covered by each of the courses. The Gifted Education series at Rutgers is broken into 4 courses, each of them 3 credits in value, and a 5th 200-hour clinical placement and practicum project that you roll out as a final piece to the program. The first course, The Gifted Child, is an introduction to the field, to the identification of the gifted child, to the definitions historically and currently of giftedness. And then the second course, The Social and Emotional Development of Gifted Children, obviously addresses issues separate from just the cognitive issues, but looking at the child as a whole person and how they interact with their peers and with others in their worlds. Both those first 2 courses are of great importance, not just to educators and administrators in the K-12 world, but also to parents and others who deal with young gifted children on a regular basis. The third course, Curriculum and Instruction for the Gifted, is the meat of what happens in the classroom in terms of customization, differentiation of the curriculum, and also differentiation of instruction in order to make it appropriate to the level of the students that you're working with. Frankly, these skills are very important no matter what level of students you're working with. Whenever you've got a heterogeneous classroom, you need to be able to figure out how to adjust for the different levels of abilities within that classroom. But clearly, it is a very important set of skills to master to work with gifted children. This is also the course, as I mentioned, that is accepted towards the Supervisor Certificate offered at Rutgers. The Gifted Program Development course, the 4th course, pulls back a little and you look from maybe the 10,000-foot level at how you work with stakeholders, board members, peers, bosses, parents, the children themselves. It talks about needs assessment. How do you know what kind of program you need or where the deficiencies are in the program you already have in your district or in your school? And also, how do you evaluate that program to make sure that you're doing what you want to do and achieving the outcomes that you want to achieve? Again, the last one is a 200-hour project. It can be a rollout of a project that was completed as a final project for one of the earlier courses. We try to make this program very applied, something that you can take and actually use in your work. And so this is a final piece that becomes a portfolio piece as well, something to have in your background. Our faculty is drawn from all over the country. These are all experts with great expertise not only in the classroom as instructors, both on the university level and experienced in the K-12 arena as well, but also consultants and authors, published experts in their own rights who have each done a great deal of consulting with school districts. These are folks who can address not just the curriculum, but questions that you can bring to them. And we're very pleased, very proud of the folks that are teaching in this program. They do a great job. So why do people take this program? We've done some surveying of the folks who have graduated from the program, and we find that 88.89, almost 89%, say the certificate program has increased the joy or fulfillment that they find in their work. Another 83.33% say that it helped them to be more effective in their work. And 27.78% said that it helped them advance in their careers. One person, I don't have the name here, we quote as saying, "It was amazing to meet leaders of the field and have them as professors and mentors. Also, I found a great new group of colleagues to share and brainstorm with." That's one of the most important pieces. I don't think we say it enough. A lot of times if you work in gifted education, you are the only expert in your building, maybe in your district. You don't have a lot of peers to bounce ideas off of, to get help when you've gotten to a difficult spot. This program provides you with very tight connections with other folks in state and out of state who are wrestling with the same kinds of challenges that you are, and who become a very important professional network going forward for you. Here is the schedule for courses offered in 2017. You'll see that they start in January, run through December. You could complete the whole program in 1 year if you chose to do that. Some people prefer to do it over 2 or even 3 years. Depends on what your other commitments are and what your goals are. We're happy to have you participate at your own pace. We do recommend that you take the courses in this sequence, but the only hard and fast rule is that you cannot do the clinical placement and practicum until you've taken the other courses. If you're interested in learning more about the certificate program or how to apply for it, here's the website. It's gifted.rutgers.edu for gifted ed. You can do a /register to go straight to the registration page, or you can meander through, see the full descriptions of the courses, the bios of the different faculty members, and you can certainly reach out to us from that page if you have very specific questions. Not everyone who works with gifted children can make the commitment to the full certificate program, and we understand that. So about 3 years ago, we introduced the Gifted Education Conference at Rutgers. This is a one-day program chock full of important comments, trends, information about the field delivered by our faculty for our certificate program, as well as other experts in the field. This year, it's going to be held on Friday, November 18th at the Somerset Doubletree and Rutgers Continuing Education Center at the Atrium. They are across the street from one another. We're delighted to welcome back Dr. Joyce Van Tassel-Basca as our keynote speaker. She is truly a treasure and the most knowledgeable person I've ever met in the field, has done everything and written most of it down. She is not only going to be doing our keynote speech, but will also be leading 2 smaller workshops in the day. The fact is there will be 5 concurrent tracks throughout the day given by our faculty and other experts on topics like identification, curriculum, instruction, serving special populations, advocating for gifted education. They are meant to be for different groups, from the very most novice person working with gifted students to very advanced folks that have done a great deal in the field. You can find your level here. 5 tracks all day long. If you want to register or you want more information, please do go to our website, same basic website, gifteded.rutgers.edu, and then /conference to get to the information about this year's program. Here's another shorter term class that's very focused. We've started offering special topics courses in summer. And next summer, there'll be one called Creativity and Education. It's a really specific focus on a particular trend in gifted education. It does not count toward the certificate. It is an additional thing. You can take it before or during or after the certificate. You can take it even if you have no plans to take the certificate, but it will give you some very focused information about a particular area that isn't addressed in great depth during the certificate program. Highly recommended. Again, that'll be in the summer. If you're a school or a district administrator, you may also want to consider bringing Rutgers to your site. We can provide a number of different services to you at your facility. We can bring our faculty members in to consult or to provide program evaluation services. They can develop and deliver custom professional development programs for target audiences. We have worked with teachers. We've also worked with counselors and administrators trying to achieve the goals of the individual school or school district. If you have 20 or more people at your site, or perhaps across your own district and a couple of adjoining districts, and you'd like the entire certificate series offered in hybrid format, partly at your facility, partly online, we can also arrange to do that by contract. For more information about these services, to speak with somebody at greater length, please email us at gifteded@docs.rutgers.edu. Now I'm going to turn the program back for just a moment to Lenore so that she can tell you about upcoming webinars that she will be presenting for you. Now it's your turn to talk. Have you got questions? Would you like to make a comment? This is your moment.
We're here. Dr. Cortina and I are here. If you have questions, we'd be happy to talk with you. You can type them or you can talk them. Is this material helpful to you? Are there other topics you might like us to do for these in future? They're just little tastes, little pieces, for the most part very hands-on, applied kinds of things. But if you have things that you'd like to see in future, that's also useful to hear. Well, I'll tell you what, you've been very patient. It's almost an hour. Let me give you the email address. We can all be accessed this email if you go to gifted ed, GIFTEDED at docs, docs.rutgers.edu. Then Dr. Cortina and I, and also Dominique House, who's our program manager, will be able to see it and get back to you. Thank you so much for being here, and we hope to see you at the conference on the 18th. We have almost 200 people registered so far, but there is still more room. And also hope that some of you will consider coming out for the series that starts in January, the certificate program. Thanks so much for being here. Take care. Bye.